Hello. For those who do not know me, my name is Isaac Chavel. I've been living in Riverdale for more years than is wise to admit, and I've been with TRM from the very beginning. For this week's Devar Torah, I'd like to discuss a verse at the end of the parasha. V'huish Moshe onav ma'od, mikol ha'adam asher al pnei ha'adamah, and the man Moses was very humble, more than any other person on the face of the earth. The context is where Aaron and Miriam are complaining about Moshe Rabbeinu. As Chazal understand it, the complaint was that Moshe Rabbeinu had separated from intimate relations with his wife. And they apparently, from the context, took it as a form of arrogant piety. They said, Harakach ba Moshe diber Hashem. Did God only speak through Moses? They spoke with us as well. And the Torah immediately responds, V'yish Moshe onav ma'od, mikol ha'adam asher al pnei ha'adamah. There is no arrogance here. There's only humility. I would like to deepen that appreciation of the humility of Moshe Rabbeinu. And I want to do that by referring to the section right before this incident. And that's the story of Eldad Umeidad. In the story of Eldad Umeidad, Moshe Rabbeinu is overwhelmed with the burdens of leadership of the Jewish people. Apparently, it's a very old story. And God says to him, go gather 70 other people, 70 elders, leaders of the Jewish people, and gather them in front of Ohel Moed. I will descend, I will speak to you, and from the Spirit that is upon you, I will place on some of that Spirit on the Shivim Ish HaZakenim, on these 70 elders. And they will be able to carry the burden with you, and you will not have to carry it alone. And indeed, the Torah says that they came to Ohel Moed. And Vayered Hashem b'yonan, God descended in a cloud, Vayedaber elav, and he spoke to Moshe Rabbeinu. Vayotze manhu ruach al asher alav, Vayiten al Shivim Ish HaZakenim. And he took from the Spirit that was on Moshe Rabbeinu, and he placed it on the Shivim Ish. Vayehi kanoach aleim haruach, when the Spirit descended upon them, vayisnabu v'lo yosofu, they prophesied never to prophesy again. Apparently the point is they could only prophesy through the medium of Moshe Rabbeinu. Nonetheless, two people were invited to show up at on this occasion, and they did not show up. Their names were Eldad and Medad. They stayed in the camp. Chazal have an explanation as to why they did not show up. But they stayed in the camp, and the Torah says, Vayisnabu b'machaneh. V'tanach aleim haruach, Vayisnabu b'machaneh. The Spirit descended upon them, and they prophesied in the camp. Yoshua sees this, and they're not by Ohel Moed. They're separate, alone in the camp. He sees this as rebellion in the authority and the leadership of Moshe Rabbeinu, and he proposes to put him in jail. Moshe Rabbeinu says to him, Hamakanei Atoli, you're jealous for me? U'mi'itein kalam Hashem neviim, I only wish that all the whole nation of God were prophets. Ki yitein Hashem l'zrucho aleim, that God would put His Spirit upon them. Now, the impression when you read it, because it says, Vatanach aleim haruach, the exact same way that when speaking of the 70 elders, Vayihi kanoach aleim haruach, it seems clear that Eldad and Medad prophesied through the Spirit of Moshe Rabbeinu. Haruach, hey hayidiyah, definite article. There's only one being discussed, and that's Ruach HaKodesh, from Moshe Rabbeinu. Nonetheless, Ramban and Chizkuni, and they're following explicitly the Midrash Rabbah, say that the prophecy to Eldad and Medad ended up coming independently, directly from God. That changes our perspective. It seems to go against the grammar, but the intuition of Chazal and the Midrash and the Mefarshim is to push aside the issue of the grammar. They say he prophesied directly. what's the difference between the two? The difference between the two on one hand, one aspect is very simple. In the first case, Yehoshua thought they were prophesying independently when in fact they weren't. And Moshe Rabbeinu is displaying a generous, a gracious generosity. He knows that they are prophesying through his agency. Nonetheless, he says graciously, I only wish that indeed they prophesied on their own, and that God spread his, and that the whole nation of God become prophets. But according to Ramban and Chizkuni in the Midrash, it's deeper than that. Yeshua was correct. They were prophesying independently. And nonetheless, Moshe Rabbeinu knew that they were prophesying independently. And nonetheless, he only wished that not only they prophesied, but everybody else reaches a level of prophecy independently of Moshe Rabbeinu. And that they prophesied directly from God the same way Moshe Rabbeinu prophesies directly from God. Moshe Rabbeinu had no proprietary sensibility of any exclusive monopoly on prophecy. He did not own prophecy. Never thought of it that way. And he genuinely wished that everyone else would have the same level, be zecher to the same prophecy that he was over. Remember, Aaron and Miriam, they complained that they were prophets too. When the Torah now says, Moshe Anov Ma'od, he's an Anov about prophecy. And we know that already, having read it in the story of Ered Meida, that he never had a sense of any proprietary mastery of prophecy that would be, that would require, his ego was empty of any proprietary mastery of prophecy that would rule out anybody else. Torah says, it's over the issue of prophecy. Ultimately, what separates Moshe Rabbeinu from all other prophets, the Torah gives a whole list. But the thing that stands out most in that list is B'chol Beisi Nemanu. In my house, he is the trusted one. And that comes from the fact that he had no ego in the issue of being a prophet. Yeshua Moshe Anav Shabbat Shalom.